You know, a really dark thought I have,
Go on.
which is like, if something goes a bit wrong, I think, I'll be dead in 100 years.
No, literally.
And that show, I mean, I can't imagine what it was like to be part of. It was so beautifully received.
I think it just resonated so deeply with people in like loads of different ways. And the people that were there, they were like, that was what it was like. You captured it really well. This kind of real blend of joy and fun, and then extreme fear and stigma and silence. I was really into gymnastics when I was like 10, and I got quite obsessed with doing this gymnastics. They wanted me to go like 3 times a week, then like every night a week. But something started to go funny with my eating. I was kind of bullied quite a bit in my primary school, and then picked on again a bit in secondary school. And then I started self-harming when I was like 14, 15. The bulimia started around then as well. Just, it was all this kind of cauldron of kind of like, who am I? Like, have you seen Inside Out?
Of course.
It felt like massaging my brain. So I was like, finally I see a visual representation of what's going on inside there.
Maybe we don't need therapy. Maybe we just need to watch Inside Out every day.
Exactly, on a loop.
Hi, Olly.
Hi, Fearne.
So I have to be really honest. I bought with me a really zhuzhy outfit with these like blue shoes, blue sequin trousers. And I got here, and you know those days where I just thought, I haven't got it in me to put that on. So I'm in tracksuit bottoms. So I'm really apologetic, but I didn't have it in me. I don't know why.
No, but you look lovely. You look relaxed. Maybe it would have been too much if you'd been wearing the like fancy outfit.
It felt too much.
I might have felt a bit intimidated.
Yeah, well, I don't want to intimidate you.
I'm just in a jumper and
I love
and
your
jeans.
jumper.
Thank you. And
It's
you're
so
in a
good.
nice jumper.
I reckon we could talk about jumpers or cats for about an hour.
Should we do that
and that would
instead?
be the episode.
That'd be amazing.
How are your cats?
They're really well. Thank you so much for asking. I was actually just saying, as I was on the way here, like lots of my friends talk about their young children, you know.
Cats.
And I'm like, hey, I can relate. My cats do this. They keep me up all night. They wake me up early. They always get into little fights.
Why are cats so great?
They really are the best. I grew up with cats, and
Same.
ever since I moved to London, I've been waiting until I could get my own cats. And then a year and a half ago, I got my 2 cats, and I just can't believe it feels like I've had them forever.
You can't imagine life without them.
I absolutely can't, and that really is their house, their rules. Like my routine is based around the cat.
That's why I love cats, because there's no fucking about. They're like, this is what you're going to do for me, and you're going to do it now.
Exactly.
And your world revolves around what I want.
Totally, and it's very different to I mean, I love dogs as well. I've never actually had a dog, but I feel like a dog, you know, the owner is the god. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But cats, they're their own gods. They
But
do whatever
also,
they want.
dogs are more hard work. You've got to go on a walk. You've got to like take them out for a poo. Cats just go, I'm just going to go in the garden and shit in the bush. That's cool. And you go, yeah, bye.
Yeah, I'll do what I
Cats
want.
are so good. What are your cats called?
Fanta and Sprite.
Fanta and
Yeah,
Sprite. I've
one's
got
orange.
Simon and Frank.
Oh, lovely. That's so cute. Do you have lots of names for them?
We're
literally gonna
just like
talk so much
Sai.
about
It's more the voice. I do a stupid voice when I'm talking to them.
Yeah.
I talk to them like they're idiots, but I'm the idiot.
No, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, why are you such a cute
Yeah,
little
Frank.
cat?
I call Frank. Frank. What? And he's sat there going, "What are you doing?"
It's a good thing cats can't talk, because they tell us what idiots we are.
They'd go, "You absolute dick. Leave me alone."
You embarrass me so much.
So much. But we've decided cats are better than humans, and that is the law.
Well, a cat, I mean, it's such a beautiful relationship with a cat. They never argue with you.
No.
They never, they just love you. It's so sweet.
It's the best feeling. I'm so happy for you having your cats.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm also happy for you because you have got your first album under your name out very soon indeed, called
That's right.
Polari.
Yes.
Now, I was really interested to learn about the word Polari. You educated me greatly. I was scrolling through all the text that you wrote on Instagram, describing the meaning behind the word and the history behind the word. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. Oh, well, so Polari is the name of a kind of slang that was spoken in Britain. It actually has roots that goes really, really far back, 18th, 19th century. And it's a slang that's made up of all these different kinds of languages and dialects. So it's got Romani, it's got Cockney rhyming slang, it's got Italian words, German words that are just flipped back to front. And it was called Polari, and it was spoken by all these different kind of marginalised groups. And it was kind of spoken in the theatre, in circus, among circus performers, people who were on ships, kind of quite like communities that often moved around a lot. So that's why you got this different influence, all these different languages. And then it was adopted by gay men as a way for gay men to kind of communicate with each other openly, but in secret. So they could talk about, a guy they fancied or what they might be up to later that night, without fear of being arrested, because, being gay was criminalised at that time. So It has, and so that's a very potted, tiny little explanation.
No, it's so
but
cool
it's
to learn about
really,
it.
really fascinating, and it's had such an interesting journey over the decades, really, and centuries, because even by the 1960s, it had really fallen out of fashion. It wasn't really spoken anymore, but it was kind of, there were drag queens like Edna Everage who started to use it, and it became part of their kind of act, and it's really synonymous with that sort of UK drag culture, Polari, like very working class, like it's just got such a rich and fascinating history, and I was so inspired by all of that, really, what it feels like to be gay and come from that sort of history, but also what it means to speak a secret language and to kind of have a code between you and the people around you. And as an artist, I feel like I do that with songs. And then as a community, being in a gay community, you do that all the time. You do that with your friends, you know. So it was very inspiring to me, yeah. So
I went down such a rabbit hole. I ended up watching videos of people
cool.
speaking in different dialogue. And it was so cool. I just love learning about it. And on your Instagram, you said, actually, previously you hadn't really looked into gay history. It hadn't been something that had really pulled you to sort of go and do that research, but maybe your role in It's a Sin was something that ignited that, it being a period piece essentially.
100%. I know, so crazy that it's a period piece,
just
being in the 80s.
Very depressed, but it is a period piece.
I know, yeah, it is. And no, absolutely, like doing that show just really allowed me to kind of go into this part of my life and my history that I'd always been a bit scared to go towards in a way. And yeah, I mean, just the experience was so incredible in so many ways, but I'm so happy that it allowed me to kind of get to grapple with my own identity and how it kind of fits in the world and where it's come from. And, you know, it really was like, all these pieces kind of coming together for me, like learning about all that history. It really helped me understand myself.
Yeah. And that show, I mean, I can't imagine what it was like to be part of it. It was so beautifully received. Yeah. Everybody was just raving about it when it first came out, and it was just so well loved. And obviously, it being set in that era throughout the HIV/AIDS epidemic, there's many people, I mean, I've got friends who lived through that era and remember it extremely painfully and well. And I can only imagine the feedback that you got from people who remember that time and losing friends and losing family members. Like, I imagine you got so much feedback from people.
Yes, I think it just resonated so deeply with people in like loads of different ways. And the people that were there, I think what was so cool to hear in their response was that they were like, that was what it was like. You captured it really well, this kind of real blend of joy and fun, and then extreme fear and stigma and silence and things happening and being pushed under the carpet and not knowing what was going on. Because a lot of people, they lived through that time, they didn't even know what was happening necessarily, unless you had friends who were in those communities. It was all very pushed under the carpet. And I think what Russell did was so amazing, and everyone that made It's a Sin was allowed those stories to kind of come out into the open and for people to share what happened to them and what that made them feel. And I think there's like real healing that can happen when you do get to discuss something like that. So that was amazing. You know, people still come up to me all the time and say, wow, It's a Sin was amazing, and it's so cool to be part of that.
Yeah. And also that era, you know, it really ramped up homophobia because people were sort of conflating being gay with having AIDS, and it was just such a toxic time for people to be living through that. I mean, we do see now today a lot more queer joy and TV shows like It's a Sin and people living more freely. You know, I'm probably looking at maybe people that I know, and maybe it's a niche group on Instagram, but obviously homophobia still hugely exists. So I wonder, is it any better, really? Like, we're getting more balance because we're seeing, as I said, so much more queer joy, but it's still there living alongside it.
Yeah. I think about this a lot, you know, because, you know, doing It's a Sin, we had this kind of direct comparison, you know, to go, here was what happened in the 80s, and look how far we've come now. And there are all these material changes, material progresses that we've made in terms of, like, you know, medical care, in terms of acceptance, in terms of rights and, you know, legislation, and you can really tick those off. And but of course, like, there's this flip side to it. I think, you know, the progress of, what is it they say, like, history doesn't move in that linear trajectory, because it feels like there are wins and losses all the time, and I think the world gets more and more fractured, and we're all feeling like we live in a more divisive time than ever. So I think an identity has become such a huge part of our cultural conversation and about the way we see each other and the way we communicate. It's like, what's your identity? And I think So I guess the problems and issues kind of develop as even though you make these great changes and gains. And it also really depends on who you are, because everyone's living in these different environments and different circumstances, you know, like, so it's kind of and we have all this information coming at us all the time, you know. We're able to hear stories and hear voices from all around the world. Queer people are everywhere, you know what I mean? So that's great, but then you see how much there's still left, how much pain and misery and the awful circumstances that so many people are still in. So it's like this real dissonance to just living that experience. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Of course. Well, it's also the fact that people still have to come out. It's still this moment of,
I know,
you have to reveal yourself to people in a way that
yeah,
is taken for granted otherwise. So there is still, there's so much progress to be had.
I know.
So much progress to be had. One thing I just thought was so brilliant was your documentary that you made about
thank you.
the connection between growing up being gay and mental health problems. And it was a confronting topic and something you've obviously got direct first-hand experience of. What did you learn about yourself, I guess, through that process?
Oh my gosh, so much. I kind of suspected that, because I just, like, anecdotally amongst friends and stuff, I felt like people in the queer community, we'd kind of inherited some issues, right, around being able to live our lives the way we want to. I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? And that can manifest in these quite complex and variable mental health problems. It happened to me, you know. It's not, and the reason that, you know, because when I was growing up and a bit younger than I am now, I definitely had a whole kind of tranche of mental health issues that I struggled with. And it wasn't just because I was gay, but I knew that because I was gay, that was affecting the way that I had all these high levels of shame. I didn't know how to deal with, I just couldn't accept my identity. So I suspected that was similar to, like, other people going through similar experiences. And maybe that sounds obvious, but I just wanted to find out and what other people's experiences were. And I was, I guess, not shocked, but taken aback by the levels of kind of mental health problems that are just so prevalent amongst the community. And doing the documentary was really trying to explore that link, like, why are there higher levels of mental distress amongst the queer community? And, like, there are loads of reasons why. Like, let's try and get into that. And every individual case is going to be different. And I think as well, like, that documentary was 2016, 2017, and there was a real rise in kind of talking about mental health in the public space and kind of people in the public eye really bringing it up in conversation. And I think it was kind of part of that, which was really great to get onto. But I almost feel like, well, where do we go now? Because we can't, you know, I don't know, like, what happens next is kind of like
next?
My question. I don't know.
Same. We're, you know, people are really suffering and struggling, and there's all sorts of systemic issues and things that, you know, none of us can necessarily fix overnight. We can keep talking, and we can, I think, you know, that's why I loved your documentary, and I love that you're very open about talking about your mental health, because I do think it's not going to solve issues, but I do think I'm very open about my own, and you do hope that someone out there feeling really lonely in it and isolated can think, oh Christ, okay, other people out there who are seemingly doing things they love are really struggling or have really struggled and have maybe moved through it. You've been very honest about depression, anxiety, bulimia, self-harm. If we're playing some sort of mental health bingo, I've had 3 out of 4 of those. And, you know, fucking awful, like really tough shit to get through. What came first for you? Can you even pinpoint it? Because I think when I look back at my own mental health and try and chart, what was I feeling first? What came first? For me, I thought it was the bulimia, because it was such a visual kind of expression of how I was feeling. But maybe there was something before that. I don't know. What about you?
So when you were just saying that just then, I thought of, I was really into, I'm going to take a bit of a weird direction here.
We like weird.
I was really into gymnastics when I was like 10 years old. 9, 10, 11, I went to like a youth gymnastics thing in the Forest of Dean, and I loved it because I was getting to use my body, and it was a little bit like dance, but it wasn't and I wanted to do dance, but I was a bit scared to kind of go that far. And I got quite obsessed with doing this gymnastics. They wanted me to go like 3 times a week, then like every night a week. They were like really they were trying to train people to like go compete at high level.
God, you could have been the Olympics.
I know. No,
there's still time.
That's literally, that's my secret thing where I still think I secretly could go and
Can
do
you a
gymnastics.
backflip? Come on.
No.
Okay.
You know who can though? Benson Boone. Did you know that?
What, do a backflip?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's quite incredible.
I've learned something new today.
Anyway, sorry, what am I saying? Anyway, so and then I started going to gymnastics, and I don't know what happened, but something started to go funny with my eating. And actually, sorry, at the same time, my parents were separating. And I think you're kind of getting into that, your body's developing, puberty. I'm starting to have an awareness of my identity that I didn't previously, like going to starting secondary school and all of that. So it's all happening at the same time. And I remember I like started to really restrict my diet, and I just couldn't do my gymnastics training anymore. I was like, you know, too weak to go, or just something started happening then. And I think that didn't really leave me for like 10 years, basically, throughout school. And I felt like it kind of, you know, I stopped the gymnastics, and, you know, I was at school and that was fine. I was kind of bullied quite a bit in my primary school, and then picked on again a bit in secondary school. And I was still trying to figure out my sexuality, and then I started self-harming when I was like 14, 15, and the bulimia started around then as well. And I think, yeah, it was all this kind of cauldron of kind of like, who am I? Like, I'm not right. I'm not good. There's something wrong with me. Like, and trying to find these ways to get at that, whatever that was. And
well, you're trying to cope, aren't you?
Yes,
you know, you're trying to find a way to just cope with what's going on in your head. And you know, I can only speak personally, but I think I didn't necessarily restrict my food beforehand, maybe, but with the bulimia, there was an element of I needed some control.
Yeah.
But, you know, ironically, you're sort of completely out of control because you haven't got a hold on it at all. But I felt like it was some sort of moment of control, and also something that was just mine. There was something sort of secretive that I quite liked about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that's about. Can you look back and make sense? I don't know if you can make sense of it, but can you kind of try and work out, why was I doing that? What was the feeling that I was getting from it? Or what was I trying to gain or I don't know what the language is. I'm just only talking from my own point of view, because I definitely know it was something about control, even though that's a bit blurry even.
But I understand, I really relate to that, because I think that's definitely part of it for me as well, especially when things feel so chaotic and out of your control. What's something you can control? It's your body. You think, in your mind anyway, you think that. And I was very much kind of at war with my body. I didn't like my body. I didn't like the way it looked. I didn't like that I was skinny, that people... And that was sort of like a strange thing as well, because I was restricting my diet and I was making me skinnier. And I think it's an act of punishment, but it's also an act of like trying to survive, like coping. So it's this you kind of trap yourself in this very conflicted just spiral with your own body and the way you treat it. And, you know, we hope that we can love and tend and care for our bodies, you know, and so it feels so wrong that if you don't do that, it feels like I had a lot of guilt around it. And similarly, I didn't tell anyone. I kept it as secretive as I could, for as long as I could, because I just felt so ashamed about it, and I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want people to worry, and I was like, oh well, I'll get over it at some point. And it just got really bad. And for me, it just got to a point where I like got some health problems, like a irregular heartbeat, and I had to go to the hospital. And I was like, this is my, and also and at that point, I was living with my mum, and she was so distressed by what was happening. She didn't really know very much, but she found out, and I couldn't hide it from her anymore. And it just like really, I was like, okay, this has to stop. And I didn't stop for a while, but that was definitely a turning point as well. Yeah, I mean, I had such a similar situation. My mum sort of somehow worked out what was going on. Yeah. And I'd moved out, because mine went on for about 10 years, and I'd moved out, and she came to my house and sort of door stopped me. And I was mortified, just devastated, because I thought, I don't want to stop doing this. Like, don't out me. I don't want you to know about this. But I think, like you, it was a real turning point. It didn't stop, but it was a moment of, oh shit, this is real. This isn't some little fantasy in my head that I've created this little world. Yeah. This is actually a real thing, and it's going to have health implications and yada yada. And it is a really tricky one to get out the cycle, to then heal, but then also to like your body. I know. Where are you at with that? Oh my gosh. It's, I feel like I'm in a good place. Like, I actually think I love it.
Good.
Like, not all the time, you know, but sometimes I really do. And there was a big shift in me about, maybe 5 or 6 years, maybe a bit longer, when I started exercising again, but in a way that wasn't sort of like, I must have my body in this shape. I just sort of kind of casually fell into it, and it started to make me feel really good. And I realized my body, I want it to be able to do things. I want it to like last a long time and just get me through the day. I don't want to feel, you know, especially when you're touring and stuff, when you're doing things, I'm sure, like anybody, like you need to nourish your body. It's really simple, but I can't believe how difficult it can be to just 3 meals a day, look after yourself. That can just be so tough.
I know, why is it so hard?
It's crazy.
It sounds so simple on paper, and it's really hard.
But like now I feel like I look after myself better than I ever have. And I like what my body can do, you know, it gets me around A to B. I'm so thankful. So I have that kind of relationship now. Of course, I get sometimes in these spirals where I go, I wish I looked different or this was different. But it's just kind of, I sort of like watch it happen away from me now instead of kind of being like, rah.
That's such an important thing when you have that step back and you're slightly detached and you're an observer of the behaviour or the thoughts.
Yeah.
Such a big game changer. So how did you heal? What was it? Therapy? What was your...
How did it
Tell
happen?
us what happened.
I know. Well, I guess, yeah. So it's like so many combination of so many things. I mean, yes, therapy for sure. I have had like so much therapy. And I guess time and like getting older has helped, obviously. I had to really... Have you seen Inside Out?
Of course.
Of course.
I love Inside Out.
It's so good.
I met the guy that created it not long ago.
Way,
He's
really?
amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love that movie so much.
I love it.
It's so good. And I watched the second one recently.
So
and
good.
I was just like, it felt like massaging my brain. So I was like, finally, I see a visual representation of what's going on inside there.
Maybe we don't need therapy. Maybe we just need to watch Inside Out every day.
Exactly, on a loop. But where she has that thing, like there's that moment in that second movie, and I know it's for kids or whatever, but like I was
for
like,
everyone.
yeah, it's for everyone. And that she has that core belief about her, and it switches from like, you know, I'm good or whatever to I'm not good enough. And I was like, oh, I know what that's like. I've had that for a long time. You know what I mean? It's this constant kind of tug of war. And that comes from a lot of different places. You know, like I felt very to blame for like my parents separating and for like health issues that were happening in my family. Like I really felt like, oh, if I can just become this exceptional, amazing performer and really like lift and like get my mum a house, help my brother out, do X, Y, and Z, fix everything, then I'll be good, you know? So I was just really stuck in that for a long, long time. And I'm lucky that I had a lot of help and support, you know, like I had a really good therapist, like right before I got signed to a major label. I like found this really good therapist. And even
that's the right way round to
I
do
know,
it. Not
right?
Post being a pop star. Before you're a pop star, that's when you need to do it.
And I'd had some help before that as well. And I think because, you know, I was lucky that I could have access to that. I mean, I moved to London when I was 18 because I did an acting job and I had enough money that I could just like rent for a while. So I was spending a bit of money every now and then on like a therapist, but I didn't really have enough to like just keep doing it. It wasn't until I like started to make money where I could actually pay a therapist every week. Do you know what I mean? And like that's just the unfortunate nature of like being able to access what everyone should be able to access.
Yep.
And so I don't know. So I was just kind of trying to like work at, you know, and like when I was living in London, I was kind of jobbing actor. I was trying to make it with years and years. I just couldn't, like I needed my body to work. I needed it to like, and I was just not treating it well. I was partying all the time at the weekends. I just wasn't in a good place. And I actually remember a moment as well where I was totally sober, but I fell over, I tripped and I knocked my head and I got concussion. I don't know if you ever had concussion.
No.
It was awful.
Really?
It really, really spun me out for actually for months afterwards.
Really?
Yeah, and I just thought there was something wrong with my brain, that my brain was bleeding. And so I was actually in and out of A&E, going to A&E all the time going, I'm dying, like I'm having a panic attack. Obviously there were panic attacks, but I was convinced I was dying and this concussion had altered me somehow. Anyway, and there were all these things happening and then years and years kind of start to take off, and I think I just managed to kind of align myself in a slightly better place to take on what was going to come next. And so I wasn't, you know, was in a better place with my diet. I wasn't self-harming, and also I take SSR, I take antidepressants, you know, and I have done for like 15 years. I still take. I mean, I'm on actually a very, very low dose now. My doctor was even like, it's probably placebo.
That's good to know.
Oh, good.
It's not doing anything. Great.
Just little tic tac. So that was a really long answer, but I guess it's just like I don't know when it started to happen. But
Well, there isn't always a moment.
No.
It's an incremental combination of all
Yeah.
sorts of factors and things. And I'm wondering, so, you know, obviously I was at Radio 1 when Years and Years came out, and it was just a huge, big deal. And you're all of a sudden these international superstars. And the schedule you're working to is outrageous. At this point, when you've kind of you've done the dream, you're a big superstar, you're very successful, you can buy your mum the house, whatever. Did you feel enough then?
No. No. So annoying.
So annoying. It doesn't work like that.
I know.
And we forget. We think it's going to work, and it doesn't.
Yeah. And I was quite shocked, and then also that it wasn't changing me, and then embarrassed that I had held on to this belief for so long that becoming successful and famous or whatever would make me a different person or something, because I didn't think that was what I was expecting, but I thought something would happen. There would be some transformation, that I would feel different. But sometimes the opposite happened, where the kind of the gulf between who you feel that you've become, put on this elevated place, and who you feel like you really are inside, just starts to widen and widen and widen. You just think, oh no, it can feel like a bit of a nightmare. No, I mean, that sounds really dramatic. Cause
I know what you mean.
I didn't, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like it was always like that, but that, and I was only 24, 25, which seems so young to me now. And it is young.
It is young. It's young to be dealing with that bombardment of outside opinion and praise. I think that can be really tricky. That we assume it's going to make us feel great, but like you just said, it can completely throw you, and you think, well, am I worthy of this praise? Am I actually who they think I am? Do they like the real me? There's so many things that come with that success. But I think the most important thing, and weirdly, I did a talk this morning, and it was along these lines of, we assume that when we get the job or the partner or we are the shiny pop star, whatever the thing is that you think's going to fix you, you get there and then you go, oh shit, I've brought myself along. Like, I'm still me.
I'm still
I thought I was going to be the new person, and I'm still me. Why hasn't this worked? And we all believe it, and we forget it, even in like tiny ways, like when we're on holiday or something and we think we're going to then be changed for life. And until you sort your shit out, you're still going to bring your old self along. And it's a really tricky one to square with and go, oh, okay, I can still be ambitious, I can still have drive, but I know I'm going to be the same person. And, you know, even sorting your shit out, you're still you, but you maybe can cope better and you can deal with your lot.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a tricky one.
It is.
Where's your anxiety at today? How's that going?
My anxiety was actually middling today.
Okay. In what way?
I don't know, because I was kind of nervous to come and speak to you, if I'm honest.
I'm like the least
scary
person ever.
You literally are. But it's because I think even though I've spoken like really openly about all my experiences, it still always feels like, even sometimes now I feel like it just feels hard still.
Yeah.
And I listened to actually Perry's episode, and I was really moved by how just honest she was, and she's so smart, and like she was just, everything she was saying I really related to it. And I think that it's like, oh gosh, having to go to that vulnerable place it's not always easy. And I feel like for me as well this year, I've been really trying to like just really be like, okay, I try and get to grips with, I don't know, like how I feel about myself as an artist. And, you know, because I have so much anxiety about like so many things about being an artist, and I feel like it really kind of kills the joy. And I'm really trying to like both, but I'll find myself trying to just put that in compartmentalize it and ignore it, but then it bubbles back up and you're like, oh no, I have to deal with this, you know. It's just kind of, so you're always sort of in that tussle a bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, but sorry, that was a long answer again.
No, I get it. Look, it's complicated, and that's the whole point of these conversations is none of this stuff with mental health is linear. You know,
Yeah.
you have good days and then you have bad days. I'm going through a period right now where I haven't weirdly had any anxiety, and it's kind of freaking me out. You know, I was
Anxiety about not having the anxiety.
Yeah, I know. What an
Where's the
absolute
anxiety?
lunatic. I was so plagued by panic attacks that I thought, oh, this is me for life, blah, blah. I've actually luckily found a bloody good therapist, and it's changed so much for me. But the panic attacks aren't there. And I can't put my finger on why. Some of it, I think, is something to do with what you're talking about, which is feeling you can do your job well. You can be an artist in your case, yet you can still have unsolved mysteries with mental health. And you can still... I now turn up to work, like I have today, going, for some reason, I can't put a nice outfit on. I'm really blocked. I can't put the fucking high heels on. And I don't know why I can't do it today. I know I can do the job, but there's that bit where you go, no, I meant to turn up all shiny and look professional and blah, blah, blah. But I'm sort of all right with living in the mess of it all a bit now.
Yeah.
And I'm really finding comfort in that things can be really fucking messy, actually. And it can all still function and be all right. So I think the worst thing any of us can do is talk about this stuff openly and go, yeah, it's all in the past, I'm fixed,
Right.
Everything's perfect now. And then everyone at home's going, yeah, but how do I get there? I want to
Totally.
get there. And you can still overcome hurdles, whatever, but it's not linear. It never will be.
It's really not, and I think you're so right. You have to kind of what helps me is to just acknowledge that everything's like a fucking paradox. Like everything is just like kind of contains this like opposing, conflicting feelings. You know, it's like I want to be here, I don't want to be here. I'm good enough, I'm not good enough. You know,
Yes.
I think that is just that's us, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and especially if you do something which brings you into contact with like, you know, other people, which is most of us, right? But I'm just thinking as an artist, as a performer, or as you're kind of, we're all in this feedback, right? This almost feedback loop with social media, with how we're perceived. And it's just very kind of, that's going to trigger anxiety in anybody.
Of course.
No matter who you are. So I think can help to acknowledge that it's just a lot sometimes.
It's a lot. And I'm wondering, you know, I've obviously been lucky enough to interview so many people that their job is being on a stage, whether it's acting or singing or whatever. Do you have moments where you're so in your flow on stage that there is just no anxiety? You are just literally in it.
Yes, yeah, I do. Yeah.
Heaven.
I know, which is why I love it so much.
Is that a bit of a safe space for you then, do you think?
Yeah. Yes. But I don't always get there. Like, I don't always have that. And sometimes I, like, feel like it gets completely, like, knocked off its perch. I'm like, but when it all feels like it's working, and I can get there, like, in the studio, making music, you just feel connected to something that's outside of your body. But performing is always so amazing when you feel in that moment because you're just connected with the audience. You're just there on stage with the band, the music. It's all just, you know, and I love that feeling. It really is quite transcendental, you know, but it's also very boundaried because you're on stage, you're singing a song that has a beginning, middle and end. You're here, the audience is there, you know, it's a show. There are those kind of easy to understand rules, and then outside of that it's just like chaos.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, but
get on that stage,
get back on it. But then I don't know, I don't like always have that, like sometimes, and that's when I feel really sad, like if I'm on stage, because I'm like, this is what I love. But if I'm there and it's not working and I feel just, oh my God, I'm singing badly, or the audience aren't on my side, or this is going to sound terrible on television. Like, I just...
Oh, it's the pits.
I hate it.
Well, it's when your mind gets in the way of doing something you love.
Yeah.
It's so awful. I had it with
classic.
doing live telly. You know, I don't
Yeah.
want to do live telly. I might in the future, but I haven't done it for years because my anxiety is so bad in that setting. I don't feel safe.
Yeah.
I feel really safe now, and I could
Yeah.
literally say anything. And I'm wearing a fucking tracksuit, but on TV, I don't feel safe. I feel like I've infiltrated someone else's front room, and I've got to be perfect, and that makes me just lose the plot. And it's so awful when you think, I can do this really easily, but my mind's stopping me from doing it. It's so horrible.
I know, it's so frustrating. I really thought that like all the way through when I was doing Eurovision, because Eurovision was...
I can't imagine. How many millions of people watched in the end? What was the figures?
I don't know. I think it's like over 150 million.
It's just
I know.
ridiculous.
And I just go to myself like, I can do this. Like, I can do this. I'm a singer. Like I
what
do
you
this
do.
all the time. But when it came to doing the performance, it just, and also it was so kind of concentrated on this one song. It was all you're doing is performing a song. And I also felt like things just kept going wrong. Like I was kind of cursed or something, like the audio would cut out, my mic pack would fall off, or just something would go wrong. And I was just getting this extreme anxiety about performing this song. And it's like, okay, well, you've got to go out and do it literally in front of 150 million people. So you better get it together, Olly.
I feel anxious thinking about it.
I know. It was quite, it was, I mean, I'm really proud of what I did. Like in the end, I loved it. I think it was great, but it was tough. The
pressure is immense. And there's no margin for error these days. You know, people are sort of much less forgiving if things are a bit wonky or something doesn't happen as it's meant to. There's just, I hate that. I hate that.
We're so used to perfection as well, like hearing and seeing it, because everything can be tweaked and altered and made perfect. So I'm
trying to go against grain with that one. Like this morning I did a podcast on Zoom and I called the guest Leanne and she's called Leanne, and normally I think I would have really beat myself up about that. I'd done a very comprehensive bit of research as well, but I just didn't hear anyone say her name out loud. And then I thought, who cares? I'm a human, I'm not a robot. And I really let myself off the hook. And it's down to us, isn't it? Like, we let ourselves off the hook. It's not what everyone else is saying.
This is the thing, and this is like, we place these expectations on ourselves all the time, and they can come from other people. Like, you know, you feel this burden to perform and say and do a certain thing, but it's a lot of those expectations come from ourselves. You know, it's like, well, I need to just give myself a break here. And like you say, most of this stuff, it doesn't matter, really. I mean, it's, yeah.
It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, a really dark thought I have.
Go on.
Which is like, if something goes a bit wrong, I think, I'll be dead in 100 years.
Yeah, no, literally. Exactly.
No one will give a shit. And that's so bleak, but I just think no one will care. But we put so much pressure on, what's everyone going to say? What's everyone going to think?
But that's also why it can feel so maddening at the time, because this is how I felt during Eurovision. I'm like, this is a song contest. It's about songs. Like, we're all just here singing our little songs. But it feels so far from that, and it's like war.
Bizarre. Like you're going into a battle.
Just like, this is so strange that it happens this way, but it does.
So what are you feeling about this new album with everything we've just discussed? It's a big deal for you. It's your first album under your name.
Yeah.
You know, you want that to go well. You're proud of it. You want people to receive it in the way that you've produced it. What did you want to say on it?
Well, this album, I guess, it's a big deal for me to be doing this under my own name, because I didn't really think I would until relatively recently, when I was like, no, it's time to do this. And it's really an album. It's like a love letter to being gay, really. I mean, and it's also about love, because I'm very in love with my partner, and we actually got back together, and so a lot of the songs are kind of about finding love and you know.
I love it.
But I was also really inspired by what it means to be gay, be a gay artist, and kind of speak across decades, you know, to the people that came before me and inspired me, you know, all those artists and people and everything. So that was kind of what I was trying to do with Polari, to try and channel all of that. And it's just sort of funny timing, really, to be an artist putting out music. Like, the industry is completely wild. It's just, and the kind of the rules and the infrastructure that have been in place for the last kind of 10 or 20 years have just completely gone. It's all different, and that's really exciting, but it's also kind of scary. And especially if, you know, I've been on a major label for 10 years. I'm actually on my last album now, so I have this feeling of actually excitement and liberation, because I'm about to I also feel a bit like the label because Dizzy with Eurovision, I really begged them to give me the budgets and the money to do all of that, and it didn't really make a huge return for them, let's be honest. So they've kind of I feel a bit like they've washed their hands of me a bit, and they're like, okay, we'll just do what you want, it's your last album, it's fine. But that's actually been such a good thing for me, because it just means I can just do what I want,
just be you,
and just be me and put it out there. And I actually, you know, of course I want it to do well, and I would love it to be received well. But I am just so grateful that I'm getting to do it in the way that I want to do it, and let go of the kind of any expectations of how it's going to perform commercially, or I didn't do it for that. You know what I mean? I really didn't.
You can't. You just can't. You have to do it because you love it.
Yeah.
It's the only thing you can do it for, is the joy of the process.
It really is. And a lot of stuff can get in the way. It can make you go, I don't like this anymore. Or you know, people don't like it, so I don't want to do it. Or people are mean. And I definitely get in my head about that. Oh my God, people are going to just tear me apart and tear me down. And they do, but it doesn't feel so bad. And also, I'm not doing it for them. You know, I'm doing it for me. Like literally, there's no one else.
That's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And that's probably because you're in a really good place of liking yourself.
I think so.
I've definitely had that switch of like, I don't want to do all this stuff so other people like me anymore.
Yeah.
What do I want to do? What do I want to say? Some people might not like it. Tough shit.
Yeah. Life's too short, isn't it?
Life's too short. It's really freeing.
Yeah.
How exciting.
So yeah, so that's good. I'm kind of, so I feel good about it. I feel like it's just such a crazy, I mean, it sounds so stupid, but it really is such a crazy world.
Yeah.
And I feel lucky, like really lucky to be doing what I'm doing still, you know, like, because I love it. So we'll see.
Well, it shines through everything you do. I love watching you perform. I just think you're the best, and you've just got such beautiful charisma on stage, and I'm so excited to see what you do next.
Oh, thank you.
The new iteration of the liberated Olly.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
That's nice.
I've loved talking to you today, Olly. Good
Oh my
luck
God.
with everything.
Thank you, Fearne. You're
the
so sweet, and
best.
thank you for being such a caring and like a person of light. You know what I mean? I feel like you're very, and you always have been ever since I've known you, like really caring. And you remember you sent me some like really cute happy place, like kind of like a notebook and everything ages ago. I loved it.
I love a little gift.
Yeah, it was so good.
Oh, thanks, Olly.
So thank you for having me.
Lots of love.
Yeah.